If a person feeds
Line 10.
the divine nature, cultivates divine nature, then he becomes a divine personality. So that is what this chapter talks about briefly. So in the beginning, Lord Krishna gives the list of divine qualities. Abhayam sattva samshuddhir jnana yoga vyavasthiti danam damashcha yajnashcha swadhyaya stapa arjavam. Abhayam means fearlessness. Sattva samshuddhihi means purification of one's existence. Jnana yoga vyavasthitihi, being situated in knowledge. Danam, charitably disposed. Damaha, controlling of the mind and senses. Yajnaha, performance of sacrifice. Swadhyaya, engaged in studying the Vedic scriptures. Tapaha, engaged in austerity for self-realization. Arjavam, being simple living. And then ahimsa satyam makrodaha tyaga shantir apaishunam daya bhuteshu aloluktvam mardavam hri achapalam. Some more qualities which are called divine nature. Ahimsa, non-violence. So non-violence not only means physically not hurting others, non-violence also means not to keep people in ignorance. When we have knowledge and we don't share the knowledge with others, even though they are capable of understanding that knowledge and making spiritual progress, when we don't share that spiritual knowledge with them, we are performing himsa, violence. So ahimsa, a person situated in the divine nature, does not perform such himsa. Satyam, he is always truthful, he speaks the truth. And also Satyam means he only speaks about the absolute truth. Satyam means the absolute truth. So one who is interested only in speaking about the absolute truth, he is a person situated in divine consciousness. Akrodaha, he does not become unnecessarily angry. Generally, people become angry when their material desires are frustrated. But there are sattvic reasons to become angry also. So akrodha doesn't mean one has fully given up anger, but akrodha means one does not get angry for material reason, unnecessarily. Tyagaha means sacrifice, detachment, renunciation, tyaga. We will discuss more about tyaga in the 18th chapter. Shantihi, shanti means peace. Apaishunam, aversion from fault finding, one who is not interested in finding faults with others. He is also said to be a person in divine consciousness. Tejaha, tejas means vigor, one who is very determined in what he wants to do. Tejaha. Prabhupada gives an elaborate purport to all these wonderful qualities. Tejaha, then Kshama. Kshama is forgiveness. So having a person in divine consciousness has a big heart to forgive the mistakes committed by others, because he knows that he himself also can commit mistakes. Kshama. Dhruti means determination, fortitude, to be determined towards achieving one's purpose. Dhrutihi. And then Shaucham. Shaucham means cleanliness. We have already discussed there are two types of cleanliness, internal and external. External cleanliness, we take bath for the body. Internal cleanliness is achieved by always chanting the holy names of the Lord. That is Shaucham. Adroha. Adroha means freedom from envy, not to be envious of others. When somebody is in a better position, accepting that it is Lord's decision. Somebody is better situated than me, I should not become envy. Why? Because it is the Lord's decision that somebody has to be better than me. Instead of feeling bad and feeling envious and plotting against that person. So a person in divine nature is non-envious. Na ati manita. He does not expect honor from others. Generally, people always expect respect from others. But a person situated on the divine nature platform, he does not expect respect from others. Amanina mana dena. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, a devotee should be like that. He should not expect respect from others, but he should be ready to offer all kinds of respects to others. Mana dena. Bhavanti sampadam daivim abhijatasya bharata. So Krishna says all these are called divine qualities, and a person who is born with these godly qualities, he is called a divine personality. These are all godly qualities. These are the qualities which make a person godly. We are all trying to become God conscious. How do we know whether we are progressing in God consciousness or not? If we have these qualities, if we are cultivating these qualities, then we can say that our godly nature is being cultivated. We are coming back to our original position. Originally, we are all God conscious. We are all connected with Krishna. Therefore, we have all these divine qualities. But right now, because we are influenced by illusion, we have disconnected from Krishna, and as a result, these godly qualities have disappeared from our personalities. But when we slowly start cultivating God consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada, then all these divine qualities will slowly become manifest in our personality. Right? So that is the way we can know that we are slowly becoming God conscious. That is why the list is given here. Right? Let us read this once again. What are the qualities, godly qualities? Fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity and simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion and freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty and steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, freedom from envy and the passion for honor, freedom from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. Now, in the next verse, in verse number 4, Lord Krishna gives a list of demoniac qualities. Dambho darpo abhimanascha krodha parushyam evacha ajnanam chabhijatasya partha sampadam asurim. Dambha means arrogance, pride. Dambha means pride. Darpaha means arrogance. Abhimanaha, conceit. Abhimana means to feel great about oneself, abhimana. And then krodha, anger. Parushyam. Parushyam means to behave harshly, to treat others with harsh words or with harsh behavior. That is parushyam. This word parushyam comes when in the Valmiki Ramayana, where it is described that Ramachandra would never speak harshly against even his enemies. Right? Even towards his enemies, Ramachandra was gentle. He was speaking gently. Parushyam. Parushyam means harshness. Ajnanam means ignorance. So these are all the demoniac qualities. Arrogance, pride, anger, conceit, harshness and ignorance. These are called demoniac qualities. Now, what is the effect of these two qualities? Right? Daivi sampad vimokshaya. When one cultivates divine qualities, that leads to liberation, vimokshaya. Nibadnya asura asuri mata. But when demoniac qualities increase, when demoniac qualities are cultivated, that will lead to bondage. Nibadna, nibandha. Nibandha means bondage. Mashucha sampadam daivim abhijatosi pandava. So Krishna is assuring Arjuna, don't worry, you have divine qualities, O Arjuna. Right? That means Arjuna's participation on the battle in the battle of Kurukshetra is going to lead him to liberation, because he is having divine qualities. And in fact, how do you know Arjuna has divine qualities? The very fact that Arjuna is so hesitant to kill his kinsmen just for a kingdom, that itself shows that Arjuna is free from demoniac qualities. Isn't it? So that is what Krishna is assuring. Now, Krishna explains in detail the psychology, the thinking of demoniac people in this chapter. How do the demoniac people lead their life? What do they think? How do they act? That is what is explained here. It is very important for us to know this, because we can identify in ourselves whether I have these traits or not. If I have, how much do I have? And why I am far away from Krishna consciousness? It is because of these traits. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidurasuraha. The first quality of an asura is he does not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. There is no clarity. What is to be done and what should not be done, there is no clarity. There is some kind of a chocho bath, mixture, hodgepodge understanding. In fact, there are some people who think what is wrong to be right and what is right to be wrong. If you propose any good thing, they will oppose, saying that it is wrong. You propose any bad thing, they will immediately accept. Yeah, this is right. This is what we should do in life. That is the nature of majority of the people in this Kali Yuga. Isn't it? So they do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So how do we know what is to be done and what is not to be done? How do we know? Can we figure it out ourselves? We cannot figure it ourselves. That to educate us about this, there is the scriptures. Scriptures help us to understand what should be done and what should not be done. If you study the Ramayana, it talks about pravritti. What should be done? How should we lead our life? Ramayana talks about that. And Mahabharata mainly talks about what we should not do in our life. Nivritti. What are the bad qualities or bad activities when we engage in leads to our own destruction? That Mahabharata very nicely explains. But those who are demoniac, they don't care to refer to the scriptures because they are too proud. Oh, I know everything. I will figure out everything by myself. Why should I go and study some 5,000-year-old book? I don't have faith. I am living in the modern 21st century. Everything I will figure out. I am super smart. So that is dambha, darpa, pride. So because of this pride and arrogance, one does not care to study the scriptures. But the scriptures are like torchlight. The scriptures show us the way, how to lead our life. So the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, they are the manual for human life. The manual tells us what should be done, what should not be done. So therefore, but those who are demoniac, they don't care to study the scriptures. They doubt the scriptures. Right? Samshayatma vinashyati. Bhagavad Gita says, one who doubts the words of the scriptures, vinashyati, that leads to his destruction. Right? So, pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidurasuraha. That is the first quality of a demoniac person. He does not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Then, na shaucham. There is no cleanliness in such a person. Cleanliness is of different types. As I said, internal cleanliness and external cleanliness, there are two types of cleanliness. Right? Cleanliness of our body, that is external cleanliness. We take bath, that is external cleanliness. Internal cleanliness is cleanliness of our consciousness. So if our consciousness is filled with all dirty things, even if you take bath nicely and apply imported scent, perfume, you may look nice, you may be smelling nice externally, but our consciousness will be smelling very bad. Now, Krishna is interested in our consciousness. Of course, that doesn't mean we don't take bath. Because our external consciousness is also, external bodily cleanliness is also important. They say, a sound mind in a sound body. See, if the body is taken care to one extent, if you take, for example, if you take bath, there is a feeling of freshness that you experience. You feel good, you feel nice, you feel fresh. So that is, it helps you to come to the Sattva Guna. Taking bath will immediately invoke Sattva Guna. It is conducive for Sattva Guna. So therefore, both are important. External cleanliness and internal cleanliness. Right? So, na shaucham. So in us, people who are demoniac, there is no cleanliness of any type. Nowadays, people only take French bath. French bath is what? They want to conserve water. They say already water is in shortage. So I will just go and apply some perfume. That's all. Over. My bath is over. Right? They say I want to conserve water. So no shaucham. Shaucham is one of the 4 principles of dharma. Cleanliness. Then na cha acharaha. They also don't have good achara. Good behavior. Right? Many times people don't know when someone comes to the house how to receive them. People don't know. Okay, somebody has come in the summer, at least offer him some glass of water. No, I'm not interested. Get away from this place. Why did you come? Right? So there is no proper achara. And na satyam. There is no truthfulness found in him, found in such people. They don't speak truth. They only speak convenient truth, which is half truth. Right? People want to speak truth, but when it is convenient for them, they speak the truth. So that is demoniac nature. And then, asatyam apratishtam te jagadahur anishwaram. The demoniac people think that this world is asatyam, this world is unreal. Is this world unreal? Is this world unreal? The world is not unreal, it is real. It is a fact, but it is a temporary reality. But the people who have no understanding based on the scriptures, they say this world is unreal. Jagat mithya, they say. This is mithya. Mithya means false. It is not false because this world is coming from the supreme absolute truth. Therefore, this world is also truth, but it is temporary truth. Temporary truth. And they say there is no foundation for this world. There is no God in control. Anishwaram. There is no Ishvara. Everything is happening by chance. By chance, life has come on this earth. There are many scientific theories also propounded in this way. By chance, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, all these elements mixed, and by chance, living entities emerged on this planet. By chance, things are all happening in this world. Now, these are all demoniac theories. People who are demoniac, they profess such theories, and those who put faith in such theories are also classified as demons. So, and they say, aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kama haitukam. It is produced of sex desire, and this world has no other cause than lust. This is the thinking of the demoniac people. So, these are all the doubts that people also have in their mind. Why this world has come about? Is there God? Right? If He is there, why He is not visible? He is not visible, therefore there is no God. So these are all the logical explanations or arguments put forward by the demoniac people. But only when one studies the scriptures under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, one can actually get all these doubts resolved. Right? Therefore, the scriptural knowledge is so important. We are so tiny. Our ability to know is so insignificant. How can we figure out everything ourselves? So I will figure out everything about this world by myself. How is it possible? We are so very limited in our capacity to know. That is why we have to accept the words of a self-realized person, the spiritual master. We have to accept the words of the scriptures and apply it in our life and see. And then you will see the positive transformation. Right? Etam drishtim avashtabhya nashtatmano alpa buddhayaha prabhavanti ugra karmanaha kshayaya jagato ahitaha. So with all these kinds of wrong understanding about this world, the demoniac people engage in activities which are horrible and unbeneficial, which can destroy this world. They don't do Jagat Hita, they do Jagata Ahita. Ahita means that which causes damage, destruction to this world. Nowadays you see, every country in this world, they are forced to spend a lot of money on procuring nuclear weapons. And there are companies, there are countries which manufacture nuclear weapons. They have made it as their source of income because there is demand and they have technology to produce it, and there is an increasing demand. Even if you are not using the nuclear weapons, at least to scare the other countries, you should keep a stockpile of nuclear weapons. So what is happening? By more and more production of these nuclear weapons, suppose if there is some war which starts. Once the war begins, there is no control on which country is going to use which weapon against whom. And finally, what it is going to happen, if everyone starts using the nuclear weapons, what's going to happen? The world is going to get destroyed. Right? So, on one side we have knowledge, technology, but on the other side, if there is no cultivation of spiritual understanding, then the human race is going to destroy itself because of lack of divine qualities, because of increase of asuric qualities. Isn't it? We study, when we read the scriptures, we understand, not only scriptures, we study in our history. If people like Hitler, if they become rulers, what havoc they can create in this world. We have seen that already. We have studied in the history books. Isn't it? So power should be in the hands of those who are spiritually minded. Those who have divine consciousness. If they become the rulers and if they have the powers, they won't create destruction for the world. But if the demoniac people become powerful, they can destroy the whole world. They can destroy everybody's peace. That is why it is so important to culture godly qualities, to culture divine qualities. By default, because of the influence of this present age, Kali Yuga, all of us have demoniac qualities. But unless we put efforts to practice God consciousness, we cannot defeat these demoniac qualities within us. Only when we culture divine qualities, with the power of the divine qualities, we can defeat the demon within us. Each one of us, we have some amount of divine qualities, we also have some amount of demoniac qualities. Right? Now, if you don't put efforts to culture divine qualities, it will lead to destruction of the self, and it will also, we become an instrument in destroying the world also. And that we are already seeing it is happening. Kamam ashritya dushpuram dambhamana madanvitaha mohat grihitvasad grahan pravartante ashuchi vrataha. So the demoniac people, their only goal of life is to satisfy their kama, their lust. They think if I satisfy my lust, I will be happy. And they work for increasing their false prestige. And they are thus always under illusion. Why they are under illusion? Because they accept something which is temporary to be the goal of their life. Asat grahat, right? Grihitvad asat grahat. They take the non-permanent asat as reality, right? And because of this, they are always doing work which cause problems to others. Because of this, are they happy? Are these demoniac people at least, okay, they may cause problem for others, but at least in their personal life, are they happy? No, they are not happy. Why? Because there is always chinta. Chinta. What is it? Chinta means? Tension, worry. Worry. So much worry. Chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam upashritaha. Those who have the book, verse number 11, we are reading. Chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam upashritaha kamopabhoga parama etavaditi nischitaha. Since they have decided that material enjoyment is the goal of life, they're always in a sense of insecurity. They feel, oh, whether my enjoyment will be going on or not, whether somebody will come and disturb my plans and schemes of enjoyment. There's always chinta, always worry. The moment you accept temporary things to be the goal of your life, the immediate result is chinta, worry. Why people are worried in this world, even though they have the highest technology, they have a lot of wealth, they have so many people at their command, still people are not satisfied, they are not happy because they are chasing after their desires created by the mind. And there is no end to this. You chase after one desire, then the mind will suggest another desire, another desire, another desire. As long as you keep on chasing desires after desires, the result is chinta, full of anxiety. Right? So, through all these things, what is Lord Krishna trying to tell us? Don't be like this, Krishna is telling. Krishna has already told all this in the second chapter, also he has told, in the sixth chapter he has told, we have discussed about it. He says, unless you control your mind, you cannot be happy and satisfied. Because the mind keeps producing so many desires, and you feel like it is so good, I should achieve this desire. And you become busy in achieving that. And after achieving that, will the mind be satisfied? No, the mind will say, let us go for one more desire, one more desire. The mind is never satisfied. So those who are simply slaves of their minds, they can never be happy in their life. Even if they have the entirety of all the wealth of this world, they will not be happy. They will not be happy because their mind is not under their control. Right? Asha, pasha, shatair baddha, kama krodha parayanaha, ihante kama bhogartam, anyenan artha sanchayan. So they are pasha. Pasha means ropes. They are bound by so many ropes of asha, desires. Shataihi, hundreds and hundreds of desires are binding them. And for the sake of satisfying their senses, they engage in illegal activities. That we are seeing also. Right? How even the so-called, celebrities, sometimes they are caught in some ghotala, in some fraud case. They want to quickly make money. People have fans for them. They have become so famous. They are film stars, movie actors, or they are big celebrities. But because they want to quickly make money to satisfy their desires, they engage in illegal activities. And when this fraud comes to the public view, when all gets to know this, when everyone gets to know all their hard work that they have done so many years to gain that name and fame, it is all lost in a few moments. And sometimes they also engage in illicit activities, illicit relationships. And when that comes to light, their image is destroyed. Right? But a person who is a celebrity, he will know, no, if I'm doing such an illicit activity, and when the public gets to know, what will happen to my name and fame? But he does not care. Why? Because kama blinds a person. Lust blinds a person. Right? So that is why it is said, kama turanam na bhayam na lajja. A person who is under the influence of kama, he loses all sense of fear, what others will think about me, what will happen to my name and fame. And he also feels he gives up the sense of shyness. He gives up all shyness. Today people think we are liberalists. People say we are liberal people. Why should you dress in a particular way only? Whatever you want, you can wear in the public and you can walk. Because it is your life. It is your life. They say like this, they give all this kind of reasons. Yeah, it is your life inside your house. Within the four walls of your room, you dress whatever you want. But once you come out of the room in the public, it is not your personal life anymore. It is public. What you are doing is going to influence others also. Isn't it? So, but under the influence of kama, under the influence of so-called liberalism, people go to any extent. And that is why so many illicit activities are happening in our society today. If you see any kind of uh, illegal activity, any kind of crime that is committed today, you can see that is all because of this kind of a demoniac mentality. What is that? There is no God, first of all. So there is no one who is watching me. There is no one to question me. I can do whatever I want. And only I should be, what is satisfying to my senses, what is satisfying to my mind, I will do that. They think like this and they act crazily. So therefore, without giving up this demoniac mentality, without cultivating God consciousness, it is not possible to stop criminal activities in the society. The more one becomes godless, the more the criminal tendencies will increase. Rape, and murders, all these things. Why people are doing this? Because they think there is no God. Even if He's there, He can't do anything to me. That means there is no sanity. A person loses sanity the moment he becomes godless. That is why in the scriptures again and again it is said, if you do this kind of an activity, this will be the punishment, the laws of karma. At least out of fear, people in the past would actually desist from committing sinful activities. At least from fear of punishment. Oh, Yamaraja is going to punish me. Yamaduta, so this kind of punishment is going to give me. They're going to boil me in the Kumbhi Paka Naraka, in a cauldron of, boiling oil. They're going to nicely do deep fry. KFC is going to happen there. At least out of that fear, people would actually desist from sinful activities. But in today's modern age, people think by science we have conquered everything. By technology we have conquered everything. Isn't it? So because of that, people are becoming more and more demoniac. Criminal activities are increasing. The mistake is not with science or technology. Technology is like a double-edged sword. Depends on who is using and what is his mentality. So Lord Krishna in this chapter is telling us the pitfalls of demoniac or godless living. What are the pitfalls of godless life? Right? It is going to make me a slave of my senses. It is also going to make me an instrument of destruction of the world, causing fear and problem to others. Right? So godlessness is not simply going to affect us in our personal life. It is going to affect others also. This we have to understand. We have seen whenever such godless powers have increased in this world, they have always harassed the people around them. Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, all such demons about whom we study in the Puranas. They became powerful, they were godless, and they were harassing the good people. They were causing problems for everybody. Isn't it? So if the society has to be at peace, many times people think, my faith, my choice, people say. Very cool such statements they make. I believe in God or I don't believe in God. It is my wish. No, it is going to affect others also. Because you are living in a society. If everybody starts thinking like that, suppose if everybody starts thinking it is my car, my petrol, my money, I will drive however I want. This is public road, I can drive however I want. If everybody starts thinking like that, what is going to happen? Every day there will be hundreds and lakhs of people going to die on the road. Accidents. Isn't it? So, this God consciousness at a personal level, it is required. Even at a society level, it is so much required because it brings in some kind of a sanity, orderliness in the society. If everybody is God conscious in the society, everybody thinks that we are all children of God, so I should not harm anybody. Imagine what kind of a society it will be. If everybody thinks all these natural resources are given by God, these are all property of God, we should not use it for my personal sense enjoyment. Let us use it in the seva of God, service of God. If everybody thinks like that, nobody will fight against each other, isn't it? So, God consciousness is not a personal choice. It is a societal requirement. It is required for everybody. If at all there has to be peace in this world, God consciousness is very much required. Now, how the demoniac people think, further it is explained here. Idam adya maya labdham idam imam prapsye manoratham idam astidam api me bhavishyati punardhanam. So a demoniac person thinks, all this belongs to me today. This much wealth I have gained today. Tomorrow, by my schemes and plans, I will increase my wealth more and more. Today, this is mine. Tomorrow, more I will get. More dhanam I will get by my schemes and plans. Asau maya hatah shatruhu hanishye chaparan api. Today I have killed these many enemies of mine. Tomorrow I will kill more enemies. This is how a demoniac person will think. Ishwaroham, aham Ishwaraha. I am the Lord, I am God. I am only God. Why? Because I have controlled everybody. I am God. Aham bhogi. I am the one who should enjoy everything that is there. Siddhoham. I have attained perfection. Balavan. I am the most powerful. Sukhi. I am the most happy. Right? Adhyobhi janavan asmi konyosti sadrusho maya. With all my followers, I am nicely enjoying. Who can compare my life? Who can enjoy like me? Yakshye dasyami modishya ityajnana vimohitaha. But Krishna is saying this is all ajnana vimohitaha. Foolishly he is thinking like this. Right? Anybody who thinks there is no one superior to me, I am the master of everything that exists, you should send him to mental hospital. Right? So, he has conquered the whole world, but he has not conquered his mind. How can he be in a sane situation? He is insane. Aneka chitta vibhranta moha jala samavritaha prasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narake ashuchao. In this way, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, the demoniac people become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and falls down into hell. So what is their destination? Their destination is hell. Now hell, even while they are living here and even after death also, their destination is hell only. They make this world also hellish for others to live, and finally they are going to go to hell only. Right? So in other words, one who cannot control his mind, his desires, he is going to be detrimental to the society. Right? That is why, see, all the scriptures, they bring a kind of structure to the society. How one should live in the society. Isn't it? If one is not disciplined in his personal life, as a member of the society also he is causing some problem. And if everybody becomes indisciplined like that, then there will be chaos in the society. Isn't it? So personal discipline leads to societal discipline also. Now we see in our country, the Prime Minister is telling Swachh Bharat, Swachh Bharat, Swachh Bharat from 15 years or 10 years, 12 years, he's saying that. But still we see, have Indians learnt this Swachh Bharat? Have they really taken it seriously? If you go to any bus stand, even though there are public toilets built there, they are nicely maintained to some extent. But still there are people who go, they don't use the toilets. to relieve themselves. They just go next to the toilet, they go there. Just next to the toilet. Okay, toilet is there, go. No, they don't want to go. They go just next to that backside, front side, wherever, and they create so much. They make a Swachh Bharat. Prime Minister is having Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. He is having one mission. These people have their own mission. We will keep India aswachh, unclean Bharat. So there is no personal discipline. They're not thinking, see, if everybody goes like this, what will happen? It will impact, no? This kind of a thinking, the civic sense is lacking in people. Civic sense means, I am part of this society, my actions are creating some disturbance to the rest of the society, I should be aware of that. That is civic sense. So basic civic sense itself is lacking. So they think, I don't care. My job is I should get relieved, that's all. My nature call is there, I'll go and attend the nature call. That is most important for me. So this is the kind of thinking, right? So, but a person who has discipline, he will not think like this. Okay, even if I have to spend 2 rupees, let me pay and use the toilet. The payment is actually meant for maintenance of the toilet so that everybody gets a good experience when they go to bus stand. Otherwise, they'll get a hellish experience. If you go to bus stand, if you have to wait for a bus for a long time, you'll feel when this hellish experience will get over. Because stinking bad, isn't it? So, all these things are important. We have to understand. Atma sambhavita stabda dhanamana madanvitaha yajante nama yajnaiste dambhena vidhi purvakam. Now there are some people who actually do some kind of religious activities, but they do it with pride and arrogance to show off. Namesake they do some religious activities and they make a big publicity out of it. They have no genuine devotion in God. Even if they go to Kumbh Mela, they are not going for their own personal purification and taking dip in the Triveni. They go with a big, nice camera with nice people to shoot that they are taking dip and make sure that all that is covered in the national media. They put in the social media everywhere. Oh, this such and such politician went for Kumbh Mela. Right? So, this is called, what is that? Mana madanvitaha yajante nama yajnaiste. For namesake only, they perform some rituals. Right? So in this way, they are overcome by false pride, false ego, lust and anger, when they become envious of the Supreme Lord through their activities, because they are bewildered by false ego. Right? And when real dharma is spoken about, they talk ill about real dharma, and fake dharma they glorify. That is the nature of demoniac people. So Krishna says, very interestingly, what is the destination of such demoniac people? Tanaham dvishata kruran samsareshu naradhaman kshipam yajasrama shubhan asurishu eva yonishu. Krishna says, those are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. So life after life, such people, they are born into demoniac species of life. Or you got human form of life, instead of behaving like a godly person, you are behaving like a demon. Okay, you will be degraded to that status only. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. What you think, you become that. How you act, how you are going to use your life, that will be the next destination. See, human life is so valuable and it has to be led in a very responsible way. All the scriptures, what they teach us is the value of human life, how it is so important and how it is so rare, and the scriptures also teach us how to lead this human life in a responsible way. This karma is all about this only. Karma, when we talk about karma, means what? Whatever you do, you are going to be responsible for that. If you do good actions, you get good results. If you do bad actions, you will have to suffer. For every action, there is a reaction. This is karma, the theory of karma. Why the scriptures are talking about this karma? To make us responsible human beings. We cannot say, whatever I want, I will do. It's okay. No. By your, some people, very rich, influential people, they may do some criminal activity, they may bribe the officials, the police, and they even can buy the judgment in their favor. They will say that, oh, I have gotten over it. But they cannot escape the laws of karma. You can escape the law of this world, but you cannot escape the laws of karma, because these are laws of God. So Krishna is saying, these people who are behaving enviously, mischievously, creating problems for others, they are the lowest of men, and I'm going to cast them into the demoniac species of life. They're going to be born in lower species. They won't get human form of life. They won't get human life. They'll be some tiger in the jungle, some lion. Or you wanted to become the king, no? You become now king, you become lion, king of the jungle. You become, but valuable human life, which is opportunity to cultivate God consciousness, that is lost. Isn't it? So therefore, iha sambhavante durlo. So Bhagavatam says, this human form of life is bahu sambhavante. After taking birth many times, we get this human life. After taking birth in so many species of life, we get this human life. And this human life enables us an opportunity to get out of the cycle of birth and death. By taking the instructions given in the scriptures seriously and following it in our life, we can actually escape the cycle of birth and death. We can attain liberation. We can go back to our original home, to the spiritual world. That is the power of this human life. But instead of that, driven by kama, krodha, lobha, if we simply act, then we will meet demoniac, we become demoniac species. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, such persons can never approach me, Krishna is saying. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. So you have been given human life, you misused it, so you are going to get lower species. Life after life, you will be born in such lower species. In lower species, you don't even know who you are. Right? Suppose somebody is born as a dog or a cat. What he or she will know? What that person will know? Simply driven by bodily needs. Like this we have spent many lifetimes. Now we are sitting and we are hearing Bhagavad Gita. Suppose if a cat comes to this class, and will the cat be able to hear and understand, oh, my life is so valuable, I have to cultivate God consciousness. What am I doing? I'm simply running around and wasting time. Will the cat be able to think? No. There is no, that ability is not there in the cat's body or dog's body or any other species. It is there only in human body, human species. So how much we should, we are so fortunate. First of all, we have taken birth as human beings. Secondly, we have taken birth in this Bharata Varsha, where there is still some opportunity for God consciousness. Isn't it? And on top of that, we have got this satsanga. Durlabha manava janama satsange. Human life is rare. More rare is getting satsanga, the association of devotees. That is even more rare. And if we do not use this opportunity, then what? We are the most foolish people. If some award is there, it will go to us. Right? So now very important, Krishna is saying here, Trividam narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodas tathalobas tasmadedat trayam tyajet. There are 3 gates leading to this hell. lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So Krishna is saying there are three royal roads which lead to hell: Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. If you have some sanity, if some sanity is prevailing in you, then you should give up these three, because it leads to Nashanam Atmanaha. It leads to self-destruction. What do you mean by self-destruction? Oh, in the second chapter, Krishna told us the soul cannot be destroyed. Then why here Krishna is saying Nashanam Atmanaha? The purpose of the soul will be destroyed. That is the meaning. The purpose of the soul in human life is what? To attain self-realization, to attain God realization, to escape this illusion, to become free from the cycle of birth and death. That is the purpose of the soul in human life. That purpose will be destroyed. If the purpose is destroyed, that means that person is destroyed. Over, no? That is why Nashanam Atmanaha. So these three things will lead to self-destruction. Therefore, every sane man should give these up. And Krishna is saying, what will happen to a person who escapes these three gates? The man who has escaped these three gates of hell performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Only after giving up these three, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, we can actually become interested in self-realization. As long as we are driven by this Kama, Krodha, Lobha, we are only busy in activities of self-destruction. There is no self-realization. See, even if you want to understand that I am not the body, I am soul, even to understand it to little extent theoretically, which is the basic lesson of Bhagavad Gita, I am not the body, I am soul, people find it very difficult today. Why? Because they are driven, we are all driven by lust, anger and greed. Oh, if I am not the body, then where my enjoyment will come from? Oh, this is wrong philosophy. I am the body. You know, Kama makes us think that no, you are the body. But Krishna is saying, no, you are not the body. No, if I am not the body, then how will I enjoy? I need this body. So, because our idea is only through body we can enjoy. This is our idea. When we say that we are not the body, oh, it is like dropping an atom bomb on us. Oh, we are not the body. Oh, no, I am the body. Right? So, unless we become free from the influence of these three things, lust, anger and greed, it is not possible for us to do activities which are conducive for self-realization. Right? Now the last shloka of this chapter, last but one. Yash shastra vidhim utsrujya vartate kamakarataha nasa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. This is very important. He who discards scriptural injunctions, shastra vidhi. Shastra vidhi means the do's and don'ts prescribed in the scriptures. Utsrajya means to give up. If he gives up and acts, vartate, acts, kama karataha, driven by kama. If one acts whimsically, according to his own whims, my plate, my right, my dress, my right, my life, my right, whatever I want, I will do, isn't it? This kind of thing, if somebody does, giving up the instructions of the scriptures, simply driven by whims, personal whims, if one acts, then what happens? Three things he will not attain, Krishna says. Three things such a person will not attain. Nasa siddhim avapnoti. First of all, he does not attain perfection of human life. No perfection. Na sukham. There is no happiness also. Okay, spiritual perfection I did not attain. At least material happiness can I attain? No, that also you will not attain. Material happiness also you cannot attain. Even if suppose you have lot of money with you, even to put it in the right use and enjoy that, you need some sanity. You need some stabilized mind. You have money, but you don't have stable mind, what will you do? You will simply go to gamble and finish it off. Over. Become one pauper on the road. From crorepati you become roadpati in a few minutes. That means even if you want to attain material happiness, you need to follow some discipline. And that discipline is given in the scriptures. Therefore, Shastra Vidhi is so important. Even to attain material happiness. Forget about spiritual perfection. Even material happiness also, if you want, you need the sanity through that from the scriptural knowledge, instructions. And definitely, na param gatim. You will not attain the supreme destination by discarding the instructions of the scriptures. The supreme destination, which is to go back to the spiritual world, to Vaikuntha, the place which is free from all anxieties, that place you will miss out. You will not be able to attain. Right? Now, the last shloka, Krishna is concluding. Tasmat shastram pramanante karya karya vyavasthitau jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. Tasmat, therefore, what you should do? Shastram pramanante. You should understand from scriptures karya akarya vyavasthitau. What should be done, what should not be done, that you should consult the scriptures and act accordingly. Don't consult your mind. Mind is already crazy. The whole thing is, don't take mind as your authority. Take the scriptures as authority. Why? Because these scriptures are not manufactured by a crazy person like you and me. The scriptures are directly given by the Lord, and they are passed on to us through the bona fide acharyas. The acharyas are those who have lived their life according to the scriptures. They have seen the benefit of the scriptures, and then they profess this to others. They tell others to follow the scriptures. They are called acharyas. They are the professors of the Vedas. And we have to take their instructions seriously, not your mind's instructions. Spiritual life begins when you accept spiritual authority. As long as you accept mind as your authority, spiritual life, there is no beginning at all. Mind will keep manufacturing so many crazy ideas. If you keep accepting the mind's words as your authority and start leading your life according to that, there is no spiritual life. Spiritual life has not begun. Many times people say, no, I am very spiritual. What does it mean? Unless you follow the scriptural instructions, there is no spiritual life. It is simply some concoction. They say, I am very spiritual, I am not religious. I am spiritual but not religious. You know this? This is a trend. People write in their status, in their profiles they write, spiritual but not religious. SBNR. They write like this. I am spiritual but not religious. But they fail to understand that religion is a set of laws which are given by the scriptures to regulate our life. Unless you follow this discipline and regulation given in the scripture, your so-called spirituality, you forget about it. Right? So, spirituality means to follow the instructions of the scriptures. So, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. These are the three benchmarks or standards. We have to refer to these standards, gain knowledge from these three standards and lead our life. Then it is a spiritual life. Spiritual life means we have to follow these three spiritual authorities. Right? Authority. Not whatever I want I will do. That is not spiritual. That's why Krishna himself is telling this. Bhagavad Gita is telling. I am not simply telling this. Tasma shastram pramanante karya karya vyavasthitau. You should understand from the scriptures what is to be done and what is not to be done. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is saying, I will not fight. Because, I don't want to be violent. Because they are all my relatives. How can I do this? Like this. It's all his own whimsical thinking. Krishna is saying, no, I don't accept this. This is not spiritual. Right? What the scriptures are saying, that you should do, that is spiritual. Jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. After understanding the rules and regulations given in the scriptures, one should lead his life according to that. Then one can become gradually elevated. Then one can kill the demon within. The demoniac nature which is there within can be conquered only by following the regulations of the scriptures. So that is the meaning of this chapter. So scriptures are very, very important. I will just read one part of the purport here by Srila Prabhupada. The last shloka purport. As stated in the 15th chapter, all the rules and regulations of the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna. If one understands Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and becomes situated in Krishna consciousness, engaging himself in devotional service, he has reached the highest perfection of knowledge offered by the Vedic literature. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this process very easy. He asked people simply to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord and eat the remnants of foodstuff offered to the deity. One who is directly engaged in all these devotional activities is to be understood as having studied all Vedic literature. He has come to the conclusion perfectly. Of course, for the ordinary persons who are not in Krishna consciousness or who are not engaged in devotional service, what is to be done and what is not to be done must be decided by the injunctions of the Vedas. One should act accordingly without argument. That is called following the principles of Shastra or scripture. Shastra is without the four principal defects that are visible in the conditioned soul. Why we should accept Shastra? Because Shastra is free from these four defects that all of us have. What are the four defects? Imperfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. All of us have these four defects. That's why we are called conditioned souls. What is that? We make mistakes and we come under illusion. We have a tendency to cheat others and we have imperfect senses. These are the four defects of conditioned souls. But scriptural knowledge is free from these four defects because this is given by God Himself, who is free from these four defects. Therefore, this knowledge is perfect. This is perfect knowledge. It is not manufactured by an imperfect person like you and me. That is why we should take Bhagavad Gita seriously, because it is above the defects of the conditioned soul. So therefore we have to follow it very seriously. If we want to attain perfection of human life, it is very important to subjugate ourselves to the instructions of the scriptures. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations as described in the Shastra, being above these defects, are accepted without alteration by all great saints, acharyas and great souls. You see, the constitution of our India, of our country, how many times it has been amended? Isn't it? It is amended so many times because it is not suiting, it is new things are coming up, the laws have to be altered because it is manufactured by defective people. If a defective person makes rules and regulations, it has to be amended. But the Bhagavad Gita need not be amended. It is for all time. It is a law for all time to come. Even in the next, say, 31st century, 100th century AD, it is going to be still valid. Need not amend. Because even at that time, people will have a crazy mind, even more crazier than now. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita instructions are required to bring down their insanity and make them sane. Therefore, it is applicable at all times and place and circumstances. Right? So therefore, that is the meaning of accepting the scriptures. Any questions anyone has? Yes. Yes. Nikhil.
What about this Mayavadis? I mean, because whenever we speak a little bit about Ramanuja, it's so offended. You follow your thing, I follow my thing. Why do you?
Yeah. So what is the question?
So I mean, actually, there is no question. But I just wanted some elaborate this thing about how to deal with people in who are this mind frame and should we engage with them?
No need to engage with them. We practice Krishna consciousness nicely. First, become very nicely acquainted with what the Acharyas have explained, what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. Because if somebody is simply making arguments for the sake of arguing, anyway, you know you're not going to come to consensus. What is the use of wasting time with such people? Isn't it? There is no need to. Mayavadi say Krishna aparadhi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the Mayavadis, they consider Krishna's personality to be illusion. So Krishna's name also they say is illusion. It is Maya. Everything is Maya according to them. Right? So such people, we can only give them nice prasadam, that's all. If they appreciate prasadam, slowly they will gain some piety to accept Krishna consciousness. So logically, if you want to debate and discuss with them, you will go crazy. So better not record. Any other question? Yes.
And also, like we also come here in material world because of envy towards Krishna. So, like 3 parts and how envy is connected.
Actually, if lust is its alone mentioned also, that would have been sufficient. Because when lust is there, all other things will follow. This we had discussed, I think, in one of the sessions previously. So lust means the desire to lord over this world or enjoy independent of God. But when that is there, everything else follows. When lust is not satisfied, anger will come. When your lust is satisfied, you want more of it, so lobha will come, greed will come. And when you see others are having better than me, then envy will come. When you see others are having less than you, then pride will come. Isn't it? And then that is all illusion, moha. So when kama is there, all the remaining 5, they follow this kama. So all the 5 are like brothers of kama. Once you admit kama, he'll say, I have my 5 more brothers. Can you give 5 more seats for me? Come. So therefore, it is all included in that. Any other question? Yes.
This verse in Bhagavad Gita which says, Kama ka Ishwar Mahapapa Mahanashika Vidhi. So, one aspect of Kama Yoga is because of Raju. And one of the methods that our master has told us to control, at least address the Raju aspect is to be
Is to
have only prasadam. And prasadam we also have certain regulations in terms of what goes into the prasadam. So that any arguma should be purified so that prasadam itself will be purified. So one key ingredient of those prasadams is you don't put quantities of garlic because they have ingredients that will.
Yeah, what is the question?
So I don't understand what are the ingredients like hing or ginger. So these are also very strong kind of substances. But
Okay. Now, here, when you're asking this question, the underlying assumption is Sattva Guna means it should be some tasteless, pale food. Sattvic food means no taste at all, it should be bland food. That is your understanding, but that is not the understanding that Krishna is presenting. If you read that in the 17th chapter, Krishna talks about the different kinds of food. Chapter 17, what is the shloka, anyone knows? Yeah, I got it. Ayu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhana rasya. Rasya means it should be juicy. Okay. Snigdha means it should have some oily content, fatty. It should be right. Sthira hridya ahara satvika priya. It should be pleasing. So you tell me if I serve you some bland food and say this is sattvic food, eat it. Will it be pleasing for you? No. So, too much spices, then it becomes rajasic. Okay. So, even if it is ginger also, you put too much ginger. And you say ginger is anyway sattvic ingredient. No, so I'll put too much. No, that becomes, so too much is too bad. Everything has to be balanced. So sattvic food doesn't mean you should eat some tasteless, odorless, some pale, some food that is served in the jail to people, prisoners, and keep reminding yourself that I have opted to eat a sattvic food, so it is a punishment that I have given to myself. It is not like that. You can put all the spices in the proper proportion. Okay, that is sattvic. It should not be too much, that's all. Now, but in our process, it's not just sufficient to eat sattvic food, as you said. We prepare sattvic food with love and devotion for Krishna and offer it to Krishna. And then when he tastes it, when he accepts the offering, then it is no more sattvic. It is super sattvic. Right? It is Vishuddha Sattva. It is pure goodness, transcendental. You eat that transcendental food, then you get transcendental consciousness. That is a process. So therefore, no punishment. Sattvic food doesn't mean no oil only, no salt only, no mirchi, nothing. One patient food I have to eat in one hospital. No. Eat nice kind of delicious food you can eat. You have eaten in our temple, visit like that, patient food. So you can eat. But you don't put too much spices. Too much spice anyway is not good for your body also, isn't it? So that becomes rajasic.